Welcome back to the channel, guys, for another day of Vlogmas. It's me again. Today, I'm in the kitchen. I am going to make our almost daily, like every other day, cheesecake, our sugar-free cheesecake. And as I do this, I am going to make one that is holiday themed with some pumpkin pie spice and a few other non-calorie sweeteners. And as I do that, I'm going to take you through some of my most memorable Christmas gifts. So I hope you stick around. Let's see what we get into. All right, what are we doing with first? First, what I like to do is make my dredge, so everything but the cream cheese, and I will go through that right now. Sour cream is first. So I think for me, the first gift that sticks out, it's about 1/4 of a cup, is my regular NES, my original NES. The NES came out, lemon juice is next, when I was 5-ish. I don't know, I was born in 1986 maybe. It's about a tablespoon, or a teaspoon, excuse me, of lemon juice. And that was the first gift. My dad had an Intellivision. If any one of you guys know out there what an Intellivision is, it's a competitor to the Atari. And so I played that well before I had a dash of fine sea salt. I played that, gosh, when I was real little. I have a few memories of that as the first console that I played. But the NES was something that I immediately remember getting, and from that point forward, I wouldn't call myself a gamer, but I loved and had updated gaming systems throughout the entirety of my childhood. About 2 tablespoons of the super creamer. The next one, let's see, the next one that kind of comes to mind was 90. You guys will have to help me out there. When Batman came out, the Michael Keaton Batman, the Tim Burton Batman, my favorite Batman still. So I know our previous generation, like the Adam West Batman show, my first real exposure, because I was a Superman fan before then, with Christopher Reeves, watching Superman 2, I think was the first one that I remember watching on HBO. But when the Michael Keaton Batman, Jack Nicholson, 1/4 of a cup of raw honey, was Joker. That was the first big bomb superhero movie that came out that I absolutely adored. Danny Elfman did the music. Of course, I had seen some of. No, I'm not going to say that I saw. I can't remember if Edward Scissorhands came out before or after that, but Edward Scissorhands was like the next watch, or the previous watch to that. So we received a bunch of action figures. And I had the Batmobile, excuse me. And my brother had, I think, the Batcopter. Anyway, it was absolutely amazing. Loved that. Those stood out to me as well. And then from that point forward, if any of you remember the little Tiger handheld games, I literally would ask for 4, 5 every year of different themes, whether it was a football, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that was another big core memory for me. What else did we have? Of course, the Batman. I had the Brett Hall / Wayne Gretzky one. If any of you guys had those. Or the biggest one and the baddest one was the Bo Jackson, because it was dual. You could play football on one side, turn it over, and play baseball on the other. But those Tiger electronic handheld games, again, super, super core memory for me. We have a sugar-free vanilla bean, 2-ish tablespoons. Just going to eyeball that one. The next one, and I'm going to also do a cinnamon vanilla because we have our pumpkin pie, 1/3 of a cup will go into the mixture of our main sweetener, which is going to be cinnamon vanilla. think we'll skip a few years because the NES, or the Super Nintendo, that one was cool. Never did like the Mario games, so it took me a little while to find games that I enjoyed on that system. But while we did that, I received a Sega Genesis. And let me tell you, Golden Axe for me might be close, top three all-time favorite games. Absolutely. I'm using now some really good pure natural Mexican gourmet vanilla. 2 tablespoons of this is going to go in. So when I got that and started playing Golden Axe, like that was another big bombshell moment for me. Let's see, I got a little bit older, and I think the first, at least the next one that kind of really stands out in my mind was a VCR player. My mom and dad, I think in 90, 91-ish, had one of those crazy, huge video camcorders that they had bought. And so we were always a family that watched movies on the weekends. It was tradition. Friday, you come home after school. Mom and dad go to the grocery. You go with them. You're going to rent. We had a New World video. We did not have a family video. I know that's a big chain in the South. But we had a New World video so that we would go and rent a couple of movies or a couple of games. And so that was a big thing. This pumpkin pie spice, guys, I'm going to put some of it in now. And then once I add my cream cheese, I'm going to taste and see how much more that I might need to add, because we've got clove in here. Let's see, we have, of course, the pumpkin pie. We have allspice, and we have ginger and nutmeg. So I'm going to be a little less heavy-handed, at least with the initial dump. So it wasn't long after that I asked for a VCR. We always had a TV in our room from the moment my brother and I shared a room until I was 13. There's 4 years difference in my brother and I in our age, and but we did have a 13-inch, and it had 13 channels on it when I was a young kid. It was up on a chest of drawers, and so I got to slide the VCR underneath that well before I got a phone in the room, and we got to watch movies in there in the evening. So that was a big deal for me. I remember getting that one Christmas. And typically what we would do is there would be one gift from Santa and the rest would be from my parents. So that one, of course, was one that we shared that year, just like all the other gaming consoles we shared. The next big one that I'll go back to gaming because that's what's kind of in my mind right now. And I'm going to start adding my cream cheese here. Everything else, I think, even though I'm talking, has been added, was the PlayStation. The first PlayStation that came out. Again, that was another game changer for me. Absolutely huge. And that was another one that my brother and I shared. Although at that time I was in my own room, we both had television sets, but I got to keep that in my room. And so that was a big deal. And absolutely loved that. That was kind of the first computer gaming console. And I remember I had Tom Watts, back when he was still a professional golfer. He had a game out, Tom Watts Golf, and what was the other game? I remember for the Super NES we had the F-Zero. That was the big game. And what was the? I forgot the other one. Forgive me. But anyway, from that point forward, it was all PlayStation. I stopped and have never had since then. I don't have a gaming console now, but from that point forward, I never had another Nintendo system. I did have a Game Boy before that, but that one, while cool, was not nearly as cool as the Sega handheld. That game I absolutely, or that console I absolutely loved. I would get to sneak it into church with me. Because we didn't have Sunday school and we didn't have to sit with our parents in church. So the Game Gear, the Sega Game Gear, which is Sega's first handheld console, I absolutely loved that one. Again, took it to church and in church played Lemmings, the game Lemmings, if any of you have played that, until the battery would die. Let me get my whisk out here. I've got it all over me too, by the way. Let's see, the next one. This is random, I apologize, but I'm just kind of going off the cuff. The next one, oh, I forgot one. Let me roll it back a little bit. I was 10 or 11, so 90, 91. My mom and dad, at that time, the TBS, the 24-hour Christmas Story movie marathon started. I think it starts at like 7 o'clock the night before on Christmas Eve and runs until 7 p.m. nonstop. And my dad loved that movie, absolutely loved that movie. And, of course, in that movie, as I don't think it's a spoiler alert, it came out in like 86, 87. But the big gift for Ralphie is the Daisy Red Ryder BB gun. And there was, that year or a few years after, a BB gun that was advertised as the 50th, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 50th anniversary edition that came a little bit different. It was modernized. You loaded the gun differently. Didn't have the compass in the stock, but it had a coin, a commemorative coin that was inlaid in the stock of the BB gun. And my dad did the same thing that Ralphie's dad did. I had opened up all the gifts. We did gifts first, and then we did stockings. And I know that's not, everybody doesn't do that. Some people do stockings first, but stockings were last. Stockings were always an extra little treat. It wasn't just packed with candy. There were gifts in there. That's important for a story I have coming up. But after we were all done, I was very pleased. There was never a disappointing Christmas, I don't think, in my house as kids. And my dad said he had something else for me, and he went and into the dining room and came back with a wrapped gift that looked like it might be the air rifle, and it was, and I absolutely loved that. Funny side story about that. My birthday is only about a month away, a little over a month away from Christmas. And by that time, my brother, who has kind of always caused a little bit of mischief in the family, had somehow, now there's 4 years difference between he and I, but somehow had talked me into the number one, the only rule, outside of not aiming it at someone else, was you did not use the gun in the front of the house, because we had a garage door. It's where both of the cars sat. One was in the garage. The garage had window panes in it. And I don't know, I had a lapse of judgment one day. My brother takes a paper cup, sets it on the back of the bed of the truck, and asks me to shoot it to see if I could hit it. This is a small little Dixie cup type cup. And I did, and didn't even think about it. He went straight through the cup and into the back glass. My dad had one of those split back glasses that had the glass doors that would open. Went straight through one of those smaller panes. And I was told I would have to spend my birthday money on replacing the glass in the back of that pickup truck. So that was my one and only time with an accident that occurred with that BB gun. So, but that was a memorable gift. Speeding up, I think the next big one, the big boy, if you will, the one that made me feel first like an adult, was a stocking gift. I was 16, and again, having the birthday at the, just a few months from Christmas Day, I knew that, back when I was in school, we did not have driver's ed. Kentucky did not mandate a driver's ed course. All they mandated was you had a 30-day, I think it was 30-day, a 30-day permit where you were allowed to drive with someone over the age of 18. It wasn't even over 21. It was over the age of 18, and then after that 30 days, you were allowed to, take your driver's test. And so at that point in time, my stocking, the biggest thing, was a little wrapped gift, and I opened it up, and it was a keychain, a really nice leather keychain that had at that time, my dad's truck keys on it. And he was going to get a new truck once I had gotten my license. And so that was a very special gift for me. And so at that point, let's see, I took the keys. It was a stick shift. That I wish my mother was here right now to talk to you about that, because what ended up happening is my dad did not have the patience to be able to teach me adequately how to work both feet and both hands. And I was left-handed on top of that. And apparently for him, that was another headache, I guess. And so he tried. He was very patient, but I just continued to kill the engine. So what ended up happening was, look, you're driving this truck. This is the truck that you are going to use until you can afford your own truck. So you're going to have to figure it out. We ended up coming home after one very long day of, okay, I kind of sort of have the first, second gear, but putting it in reverse was a whole different set of issues. So we go home, we park it, and that wasn't good enough for my mom. My mom said, nope, we're not going to do that. You're going to learn how to drive this. My mom has no clue how to drive a stick shift. She tells my dad to stay at home, and she and I spend the next 3 hours driving around town and out in the country, learning how to drive this. And it was one of those things where it's like, well, you can't give up and decide you're going to just stop and get out of the truck, because your mother cannot drive this. You've at least been taught a few days worth of teaching lessons on how to drive a stick shift. So it's your job. And that's what I can't thank her enough for that. That was one of those, again, kind of moments that she made me do something that was absolutely uncomfortable, but knew that I could do it and just pushed me to do it. And so I have to thank her for that. And I had that truck for several years afterwards. We went and kind of tricked it out, if you will, tinted the windows and got some stuff that people in the 90s did to their trucks. We got some different rims and tires and things like that. And I love that truck. I miss that truck. I wish I could find a picture of that truck and throw it up on the screen now. I know I have them in physical form, but they are in storage somewhere, and I don't know that I will ever have those back. But anyway, moving on, because this is getting too long. So just so we can check in here, I've added all 4 cream cheeses. They've softened overnight, one by one, and as you add them in, what I do, if I can't, I think I can get all of this cheesecake off, this batter off. I will whisk these in until smooth. So I'm just kind of talking and finishing up here as we're doing this. I will taste it again, like I said once, and then figure out whether or not to add something a little bit more. Then this will go into the fridge. 24 hours is the best to make it taste the best. But otherwise, as soon as it's chilled, you can kind of dip into it. Sometimes Julie and I will, and sometimes we can wait. So I try to stay ahead of it and make it, one morning that I know we're going to eat it in the afternoon. So after that, gosh, let me think. What's another one that stands out to me? I quickly had, yes, okay. And this one I have to go back, and this one might be the last one. But I am a lover of watches, and so I want to tell that story. I think that'll be, I'm thinking of more now, but I think that might be the end. And my first watch, I was school aged, and this one's a weird Christmas for me, because if you don't know, dominant handedness doesn't really kind of cement into a child until you're school age. You usually get through the first few months of kindergarten, and you might have a dominance to want to put a pencil, crayon, what have you, a writing instrument in one hand, but it's not, you can still be doing other things with other hands. And so I had been favoring my left hand, but not so much so that Christmas I was going to be playing t-ball in the spring. And that was the first sport, and then continued to play sports all through high school. But I had received a right-handed glove, baseball glove. And so we get, so that's the first thing that happened. We get to that season, and I'm literally, again, I'm left-handed, so the right-handed glove is on my left hand. And when my dad would take me out before the season started and play catch with me, I was taking the glove off and putting it on the other hand. So I had learned to kind of sort of catch with this left hand, but to throw it back to him, I would have to remove put the ball somewhere, remove the glove, put the glove on the right hand, and then throw it back with the left hand. That was the number one thing. Number two thing that happened was the Christmas gift. And the Christmas gift was my first watch. And my first watch was a green Kermit the Frog watch. And I had grown up absolutely loving Sesame Street. Loved Kermit the Frog, loved the movies. I think I've talked to you, if you guys have been with the channel at least for a year. This time last year, we went through our favorite Christmas movies, and I talked about Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. That's a Jim Henson movie. I've probably talked about Labyrinth on here before too, Dark Crystal, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I had received this watch. I absolutely loved Kermit, Rainbow Connection, that song. And Fraggle Rock was a big thing at that time. And again, that's a Henson. And so I got this, it's a green leather band, and his arms were the second hands. And just absolutely thought, I was over the moon. I'm a 5-year-old kid with a watch that has a leather band on it. But to me, that was just, I don't know, that was a special one. And then subsequently, I did receive a Mickey watch that had the second hands on it too. And even now on my Apple Watch, sometimes I'll throw it to a Mickey or a Toy Story. Those of you who have the Apple Watch, you know that you have a couple of watch faces that kind of go in Disney direction. So anyway, I'm going to taste this. I'm not going to bore you any longer. I think we've been on the camera long enough. Let me see what we got here. This is all going to be room temperature too, so you're really not going to know how flavorful or powerful the flavor is until it chills, but we've made it so much I have a pretty good idea once I taste it. Yeah, it tastes almost like pumpkin pie. And the sour cream will come through too, so you still get that big punch with the lemon juice and the sour cream of tartness. But I think Julie is going to love this. And like I said, around the holiday, we typically tend to do a little bit more. Otherwise, on any given day, I'll just take whatever coffee sweetener that I've been using, or if we have a new one that we're going to start using, I'll just use it as the flavor. But this is just something a little special, a little more elevated to get these spices. So yeah, I think that sounds horrible though, doesn't it? I got to adulthood and I know there's been more. My first art kit, I'd love to draw my mother. I would ask her at the age of 3 to draw for me, and that's exactly how I learned to draw. And she would draw something and I would replicate it. And still to this day, I have only taken a few formal art classes, but if I can see something online, I will figure out how to at least make a representation of it. It's the weirdest thing. But if you ask me to draw something original, I'm not really sure how good it would be. Might be above a grade school level, but that might be about it. So, that came through. First drum set was an animal drum set, talking about, Sesame Street. I was 4 years old, I think, at that time. I had been beating the pots and pans with wooden spoons in the kitchen because my mother was working night shift at the time. So my dad was off during the day. Working day shift. My dad was working night shift, so dad was off during the day, and I'm in diapers beating on the floor with the pots and pans and listening to Olivia Newton-John, Let's Get Physical, if that gives you any idea of the time of day or the year that it was. So I got an animal drum set because any of you, if you are familiar with Sesame Street, Animal plays for a band called Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. That may be the greatest name for any band that I've ever heard. And Animal's a drummer for that. So my first drum set was an Animal drum set. So that's just, again, few of my favorites. I think I'm finished up here. I've added a little bit more. I'm going to taste one more time. That is great. The only thing lacking is a little bit of pumpkin puree, and I asked Jules if she wanted to get that, and she said no, I'll leave it out. So I've replicated as close to as what I think pumpkin pie tastes like for me. So I would love to hear any memorable gifts that you have, that you remember as a child. As always, I appreciate you coming into the kitchen with me. I love being in the kitchen. I love talking while I'm cooking, and joining me today. It sounds like little Abers might have to go outside. She's standing here whining a little bit, so I'm going to get off here and go deal with that. But as always, thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy, healthy to your family, whatever you're celebrating this year. We would love to hear your comments, and I'll see you again very soon, probably tomorrow, with another Vlogmas video. Good night, everybody.